exhale, roll the hips backward. Then spread the shoulder blades apart, drop the head. All right, Jared, back at you with another class. Today we're going to be focusing on the spine, on relieving back pain, and on core control. So we are going to learn how to segment the spine today. That means trying our best to move each individual vertebrae of the spine on its own. The vertebrae being those little bones that make up the spinal column. If we learn how to control the core and all of the musculature and joints that surround the spine and make up the spine, then we can learn to relieve back pain, build a lot of core strength, and if you're like me and you love calisthenic skills and maybe animal movement, then this is going to be an outstanding class for you to build really, really solid foundations and make sure that you have a pain-free practice. So we're going to be doing all of these exercises in a quadruped position, meaning hands and knees on the floor. And just because we're going to have our hands on the ground the whole time, we're going to begin with some very, very light wrist mobilizations. So I want you to find this position. Your toes are tucked, your knees are on the ground, spine's nice and straight, and especially now that we're going to focus in on the wrist for a moment here, I want you to spread your fingers as wide as you can and think about like you're suction cupping your hands to the floor. I sort of jokingly call this gecko hands. So really spread your fingers wide so you can feel the skin between each finger, and then suction cup those hands to the floor. And from there, we're just gonna do some light circles. You can start going whatever direction you choose over top of the hands. And then do some light circles going the opposite direction. Good. And then lean back. All right. Take your hands off the floor, shake the hands out a little bit, hold your hands in front of you, and just flick the fingertips for me. We'll go for about 30 repetitions here. Getting the finger extensors warmed up, getting those forearms warmed up, and ready to support some body weight. Nice, let's go for a few more. Slow it down, see if you can spread those fingers a little bit wider now. Good, now just shake the hands out. Now let's come back down into our quadruped position. If you're a yogi, you might think of this as tabletop, or if you're a animal mover, you might think of this as bear or beast. Whatever you call it, in this position, we got our gecko hands, we've got our toes tucked, our knees should be more or less right underneath of the hips, and our hands should be right underneath of the shoulders, about shoulder width distance apart. So our arms and our legs, or our thighs, create like 4 legs of a table, okay? Now we're gonna begin our spinal segmentation, spinal movement practice with hip tilting, all right? So the first part of getting really good at controlling the movement of your spine is actually about controlling the movement of your hips. What we're going to practice is posterior and anterior pelvic tilt. All that means is we're going to practice rolling the hips backward, kind of like a dog trying to hide its tail, and rolling the hips forward. And I kind of like to think of this as like Beyonce booty, like we're Instagram models trying to stick the butt out, okay? Posterior pelvic tilt, tucking the tailbone. Anterior pelvic tilt, going back into that Beyonce booty. Okay, I want you to keep the rest of your back completely straight, all right? So don't do anything with your upper body. Don't do anything else with the rest of your body. Just practice tilting your hips forward and backward. Forward into anterior pelvic tilt, backward into posterior pelvic tilt. As you arch or roll the hips forward, you're probably gonna feel something light up in the crease of the hips, and you're gonna feel your lower back muscles fire up as well. As you roll the hips backward, you're gonna feel the glutes fire up, your butt muscles. You're gonna feel them squeeze tightly, and you're probably also gonna feel your abdominals, your six-pack start to light up a little bit too, all right? Rolling forward and backward. And notice how the lower spine, the lumbar spine, moves as we tilt the hips forward and backward. Let's go for a couple more reps here. Good. Now I want you to find a neutral position with the hips. Okay, so that's step number one. We got to learn how to control this. Step number two is learning how to control the scapula. The scapula, or the shoulder blades, also relate to the movement of the upper spine, the thoracic spine. Okay, so from your tabletop position or your bear position, whatever you want to call it, I want you to pinch your shoulder blades together. Try to keep your spine straight, try to keep your pelvis neutral, and just pinch those shoulder blades together as tightly as you can. Keep the arms straight as well, pits of the elbows pointing forward. And then push the ground away and spread your shoulder blades apart as much as you can. Pinch and spread. Pinch and spread. And repeat for a few repetitions. You're gonna start to feel your upper body light up. You're gonna start to feel your shoulders light up. You might even start to feel those muscles between the shoulder blades start to light up. And just repeat this movement for reps. Again, try to keep your hips neutral and everything else unmoving. A few more reps. Nice job. Okay, and relax. Now, the last thing we gotta add in here to get full spinal segmentation is the head and the neck. So there's three parts of the spine. There's the lumbar spine, the lower spine. There's a thoracic spine, which makes up the area of the spine around the chest and the upper back. And then there's the cervical spine, which makes up the neck, all right? Now, to get some movement in the cervical spine, all we've gotta do is look up and look down, okay? This is pretty simple. Pretty intuitive to do for most people in isolation. So just do a few repetitions, slowly looking up towards the ceiling, lifting your chin as high as you can. Think about extending your chin forward and upward to lengthen the spine. And then drop the chin down, maybe even bring it nice and tight into the chest. Think about lengthening the top of the head downward as you bring the chin to the chest. Inhale, lift the chin, extend the head forward and upward. Exhale, drop the chin, lengthen the top of the head towards the floor. And repeat. Okay? So we're moving through the three different parts of the spine here, lumbar, thoracic, and cervical. And now we're gonna bring all of them together. Now that we know how to move each of those pieces individually, we're gonna bring them together, but we're gonna try and do them in sequence so the spine moves like a wave. This is spinal segmentation. I want you to watch me first. I'm going to begin by rolling my hips backward, tucking my tailbone. Now I'm gonna spread my shoulder blades apart as much as I can, and I'm gonna drop my chin to my chest, top of the head towards the ground. I'm gonna do this on an exhale, a long, slow exhale. And now as I start to segment my spine again, I'm going to inhale as I roll the hips forward, slowly pinch the shoulder blades together, and then look up towards the ceiling. Let's repeat. Exhale, roll the hips backward. Then spread the shoulder blades apart. Drop the head. Let's move through a few more cycles. Take this at your own pace, inhaling as you move through each component individually, moving the spine like a wave through your cow posture and your cat posture. Let's do 2 more cycles. Stretching the spine as much as you can, or getting as much range of motion
of the spine as you can. And when you're complete, just relax. So those are our cat-cow movements. Cow being extending the spine, gazing upward. Cat being flexing the spine, gazing downward. If you're a yogi, you're probably familiar with those movements, but no matter who you are, whenever you do your spinal mobility practice, do your best to move with as much control as you can and segment the spine, meaning as close as possible, moving each of those vertebrae individually so the spine moves in that wave-like motion, okay? Now, cat-cows work forward flexion and spinal extension, so we're working in this direction or this plane of motion. Now we want to work in the side flexion or moving the spine this way or in this plane of motion, okay? Same three different components. We've got hips, shoulder blades, and neck, but this time we're going to be moving them differently. Find that quadruped position again, and I want you to shift your hips to the right by contracting the muscles in the side of your core and in the side of your lower back. So this time, instead of like a dog trying to hide its tail, we're like a dog trying to wag its tail. And now shift your hips to the left, again contracting the side of the core and the side of the lower back, and just keep wagging that tail side to side. Everything else in the body should stay completely still. Those hands are rooted down, those knees are rooted down, the rest of the spine is straight, but the lower back, the lumbar spine, it's going to get some side flexion as we do this. And those muscles in the lower back and in the side of the core are getting work as well. Now, after a couple more reps here, good. We're going to move on to moving the scapula or the shoulder blades. Now, this time, I want you to keep them spread out. And instead of pinching and spreading, I want you to elevate, meaning pushing the shoulders up towards the ears or shrugging the shoulders up towards the ears, and then depressing the shoulder blades, pulling them down away from the ears. You'll feel these funny muscles sort of in the mid-back helping to pull those shoulder blades down. Elevate and depress. Elevate, depress. Elevate, depress. Let's do a couple more reps. Elevate, depress, elevate, depress. Good. Last one is the neck. We're going to bring the right ear to meet the right shoulder. Rest of the body stays still. And then switch. Left ear to left shoulder. Keeping those shoulder blades neutral. Switch. Right ear to right shoulder. And switch. Left ear to left shoulder. Let's do a couple more reps here. Taking it nice and slow, feeling a nice stretch as well as a contraction in the neck. Good. Now, just like we did with our cat-cows, we're going to take those three components and we're going to put them together into lateral flexion of the spine. All right? Quadruped position. First, laterally flex or move the hips and engage the side of the core. Then depress the shoulder blade on the same side of the core and bring your ear to your shoulder. To help with this, to help get a nice stretch through the other side of the body, you can elevate the shoulder blade at the same time. And switch. First, switching the hips, wagging that tail, then depressing the opposite shoulder blade, and then bringing the ear to the shoulder. Okay? Now, side flexion again. Hips, shoulder blade, neck. Side flexion again. Hips, shoulder blade, neck, and repeat. In sequence, trying to segmentally move through the spine. Good. Let's do a few more reps here. That feels good. I don't know if you guys can feel your core working really hard right now, but I definitely can. And it feels darn good for the spine and for the back, the lower back especially. All right, let's relax. So we've got our forwards flexion and extension, we've got our lateral flexion, and now, again, we're going to layer these things we were just practicing on top of one another. This is an exercise I call the spinal skipping rope. Now, it doesn't matter if this is your first class, I want you to try this anyways. But please keep in mind, if you keep coming back to this sequence, to this class, and you've been practicing moving those different components in isolation, once it becomes habit, once it becomes easy to move those different parts, hips, shoulder, neck, then doing the spinal skipping rope is going to get much smoother and you're going to be able to get a much broader range of motion. So please keep coming back. If you have some back pain and you want to relieve it, make this a consistent practice. If you're an athlete, you want to build up spinal mobility and control, make this a consistent practice as well. But whether this is your first class or your 100th class, try and move through this exercise with as much control and as much range of motion as you can, all right? It's called the spinal skipping rope because we're going to be moving the spine like a skipping rope. Step one is going to be taking an inhale, coming into our cow posture. Hips rolled forward, shoulder blades pinched, looking up. As you begin to exhale, you want to push your rib cage to the side, contract the opposite side of your core. Remember, we're wagging the tail like a dog, depressing the shoulder blade, pulling the ear to the shoulder on the same side. And then continue that exhale as you swing that skipping rope up towards the ceiling into that cat position. Begin to inhale as you start to push your rib cage towards the other side, contracting the side of the core, moving into that lateral flexion, and then finish that inhale off with your cow posture. Exhale, lateral flexion, cat pose. Inhale, lateral flexion, cow pose. And repeat. Do a few more moving in this direction. Move slowly, move with your breath, and get as much range of motion as you can. Root down through those hands and knees and move that spine in every direction. Good. Now let's try switching to go to the opposite direction. Lateral flexion. Inhale into cow. Start to exhale into lateral flexion and then into cat. And repeat. Embrace this movement. It's a weird one, but it feels great, especially with those deep inhales and exhales. Feel into all those core muscles. Let's go for a couple more reps. And relax. Find a neutral spine. You can come out of your quadruped position if you would like. Great job. Now, that is the spinal skipping rope. That is a way in which we can get as much movement from the spine while keeping all four limbs on the ground. As we continue moving through our practice today, we're going to start to lift limbs from the floor. Our final mobility exercise for the spine is a quadruped thoracic twist. Okay, so I want you to come back to that quadruped position. I want you to place your hands, rooting them down on the floor, but I want you to bring one hand to the side of the head, lightly grasping the back of the head with the fingertips. Really root down through your planted hand. Push that hand into the floor. Spread that shoulder blade away from the spine. And then as you inhale, I want you to twist, opening your chest to the side. Keep your hips centered and then reach your elbow up to the ceiling. Good. Take that shoulder blade on the opposite side away from the spine as well. So finding as much space between the shoulder blades as you can. And then as you exhale, Bring the chest and the elbow to point back down to the floor. Inhale, open up as much as you can, twisting, keeping those hips centered. Exhale down. 3 more. Inhale, open up. Exhale, down. Inhale, open up. Exhale, down. Last one. Inhale, open up. Exhale, down. Great work. Let's switch sides. All you got to do is put the opposite hand to the back of your head, root down through the opposite hand. Now when you're ready, push through your planted palm, take a big inhale, open the chest, reach that elbow for the sky. Exhale, bring it down. Inhale, open up. Exhale, bring it down. Inhale, open up. Exhale, bring it down. 2 more. Inhale. Exhale. Last one. Inhale. Exhale. Nice job, everybody. So that twisting motion is another great one to get even more motion through the thoracic spine. We were flexing the spine in every direction, up, down, side to side, and then we wrung it out. We twisted it, okay? So we're starting to hit the spine in every different type of movement, every different direction that we can hit it in to get that blood flow, to get all those muscles working, and to potentially heal ourselves from some back pain, okay? Now we're gonna start to move into some stability exercises. This is where we're going to actually resist movement of the spine while other parts of the body move. And for those of us who are practicing weightlifting or you're an athlete, this stuff is going to be very applicable to your practice. When we do things like squatting and deadlifting, the core has to remain very stable and the spine has to remain very straight so that we can lift the heavy loads on top of our body without compromising that stability of the spine. So we've moved the spine, we've moved those core muscles through a broad range of motion, and now we're going to stabilize and strengthen them, all right? Very good. Building up that core control, that core stability and strength, and starting to apply it to some pretty awesome movements. Guys, we are almost done with our mini class today. Let's wrap things up with a nice deep stretch. Slowly come down to the floor, laying flat on your back, and you can put your arms out straight, or if you're limited on space here, you can have your arms in like a cactus position with a 90-degree bend at the elbow. We're gonna start by bringing the right knee up into the chest, and we're gonna hug that knee in towards us, interlacing the fingers around the shin, and just hugging that knee in gently, and then roll that knee around in little gentle circles. Okay, just getting a massage for the hip and even for the lower back against the floor. And then when you're ready, use your left hand to guide that knee across your body and towards the floor. Keep your right shoulder rooted in the ground. If that knee doesn't come to the floor, don't worry. Keep the shoulder rooted down and gaze over the right shoulder as well. Now from here, take some slow, deep breaths. Breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Nice job. Relax here for a few more breaths, just trying to allow that knee to fall towards the floor on its own. Finishing off today with some relaxing passive stretches. Very good. When you're ready, you can slowly help guide that knee back to center. And we're going to switch sides now, Bring the left knee up into the chest, interlacing the fingers around the shin, gently drawing it in. Take some deep breaths here. Drawing some little circles if you haven't already. And using the right arm to draw that leg across the body towards the floor. Remember to keep your left shoulder rooted into the mat this time, or into the ground, and gently turn your head to gaze over that left shoulder. Take some deep breaths. Allowing that knee to fall a little closer to the ground with each breath. Sorry if my cues are slowly drifting away. I am also thoroughly enjoying our cool down here, and I'm drifting off into Shavasana. Now when you're ready, gently guide your left knee back to center. Extend both legs straight. Bring your arms by your side. If you'd like, you can lay in your Shavasana for a few more moments, simply feeling the sensations of the breath, breathing in through the nose, feeling the belly rise, and then breathing out through the mouth, feeling the belly fall. You can stay here in your Shavasana, your corpse pose, for as long as you'd like. Or when you're ready, you can slowly take a cross-legged seat and move on with your day. I truly hope that you enjoyed today's class, and I truly hope that you learned quite a bit about how to control your core, how to move your spine, how to mobilize your spine, and how to stabilize it as well. I hope that if you have been coming back to this practice repeatedly for some time, that you are starting to see some relief from back pain if you have it, or you are starting to see how this stuff translates into other practices like weightlifting, primal movement, and calisthenics. Thanks everybody so much for joining me today. I'm Jared, and I'll see you next time. Wishing you very well.